Well, we're back. Unfortunately, we did have a little issue, but we can get going here for this match of Bleed and Loss 1. As we all sit awkwardly close, this hopefully is a series that is going to be close as well. All the stats do suggest these two teams essentially equal when you kind of look at the perspective. Attack win rate, defensive win rate, entry, time on entry is identical. Fox, these two teams really should send us to 3 maps in an ideal world, hopefully for us, as this is, of course, an elimination game. The loser of this series will be out of the Six Invitational.
We'd love a full 3 maps, and I think we're going to get a full 12 rounds in this first map. That's a bold prediction I'll put on the day. Both teams, like you said, very neck and neck, close in regard to the way that they play. Both very aggressive players, both substantial individual performers.
Well, let's break down the operator ban phase then. We'll kick things off with a Grim ban from Lost, as highlighted on the desk. The little clip we saw on Clubhouse. Bleed not afraid to utilize the Grim, especially to facilitate fast attacks. Dokkaebi to follow up, so not too unsurprising there.
Both great bans. Dokkaebi is primarily used in the Brazilian scene, especially on a map like Chalet. You give one phone call, you can take such a huge percentage of the map without necessarily needing to contribute that much information on drones. You don't have to use anything, and it also inputs a little bit of that Brazilian playstyle, the aggressiveness to just float around this map. Since it is a more or less smaller map, you play a lot of window angles, a lot of the balconies. The Dokkaebi makes it easier to get inside the map after you've accomplished a pick. Towards that, Valk's going to come out on the defensive ban, followed by the Legion.
Legion, an interesting one, of course, quite powerful at the moment. Post-buff can gain quite a bit of information, damage, obviously now mechanicals, so a lot of different factors that the attack do not want to deal with. More importantly, though, it does leave other key operators up. Azami, playable. Fenrir, Solus as well. So we'll probably see those employed from both sides. It is, of course, Lost, though, kicking it off on defense. And as we've mentioned a couple of times, very eager to jump into this match, fully expecting all 3 maps.
So as we head to Chalet, the map pick of Bleed, we begin the journey of the lower bracket. Of course, over on the B stream, that too has also begun in terms of Fear X taking on W7M. Talk about David versus Goliath in that matchup. Not to be here, though, on the A stream with 2 teams that look quite equal in their right at playing at this tournament. But unfortunately, one has to go home, and that will be after this series. One from APAC, one from Brazil. We love this international tournament for every reason, and of course, this is one of them. We get to see 2 teams from 2 distinctively different regions go toe-to-toe to see who can survive at the biggest tournament of them all.
Attackers are moving to
Bleed doing a great job at swapping turret off of the Brava to Ash, noticing that the Los has actually brought the castle barricades. Those have been a phenomenal reinforcement on slowing teams down. We've talked about that 20-second meta. The castle only reinforces that, especially with Azami up. I could see that being brought up later into the future, but the castle will be the first obstacle that a lot of Bleed will have to go through. The Ash play to pretty much get rid of as many of the far-range castles that Los will put in the way of Bleed to enter the map.
Shield as well in the pocket of Maya on Warden, so he'll probably look to play Mezzanine, but in office at the moment, and he's good for the first. It's an immediate trade, though, so both teams switched on very early into the piece.
Yeah, for Bleed, a minute 20 typically on entry. Los is the same as well on their own attack, so I'm not probably expecting the most super fast-paced action, what we've seen, say, from G2, for example, this tournament. But also don't be too surprised if Bleed opt to try and pick up the pace early, set the tone, make sure that they are dictating the gameplay, especially on their map pick of Chalet. They lose Reaps, but Reaps has proven to be, at least in this tournament, not really the sole player that is required. We've seen Turd stand up, Mentalist has been amazing. Hoven and Aspie, though, have really made a name for themselves as 2 players that can clearly hold their own. So it's not just the Reaps show this tournament for Bleed.
Low starting off with a little bit of a fake pressure roam to see exactly where Bleed was going to be coming from. Little trade back and forth, and now Low slowly going back to the site, playing a time, forcing Bleed to have to find ways of utility to get an understanding of where all the Lowe's players are playing, essentially making Bleed be the one to make the first move.
Clutch drones in play, of course, now as well, and a great direct counter to the Fenrir. As mentioned earlier, there is a shield posted up on Mezzanine, so still a decent amount of utility that Bleed need to clear. There is a defender on an island, that's Loben inside of Library, although it is, of course, the Wamai, so there should be magnets fortifying this position.
Yeah, slow-paced gameplay because you bring in the Twitch, you bring in that Brava, so a lot of drone sitting. Obviously, you want to utilize the Clutch, the drone, and of course the shock drone as well from Aspie and Hoven. So, and then you lose Reaps. You also lose that Buck. You can't open things up as easy as you'd like. Bit of a piano room push here. 48 seconds to go in the round. Still 4 versus 4. And bar games, though, I think Lost are in a good position.
40 seconds then, and we'll see if Bleed can kick this attack into gear. Loban still inside of Library. There's a crossfire for Bleed, and he succumbs to the pressure. 30 seconds now on the clock, and Lost will need to fight from behind.
Cameraman sitting inside of Barstock obviously does need to be cleared out. Angles of sightlines can be opened up. The Selmas from Mentalist thrown. 20 seconds left. Another kill for Bleed because Hoven went for that flank from that fireplace stairs position, coming down the mezzanine, got the kill onto Dash. Cameraman needed that Nitro Cell to at least get one. Instead, he got none. Good shot from Dots, but unfortunately his partner in crime has fallen, and so far the attack from Bleed has been good. They can't deal with Dots just yet though, coming in towards Games, but Hoven has the angle, and Bleed have the opening round.
Good comms, guys. Keep this shit up.
Dots trying to move back and forth between the door to potentially stop the defuse. He didn't want to go for that fight against Hoven. He was trying to bait out the magazine and get the diffuser down, but unfortunately it didn't go out in his favor. I really want to take note of the opening that Los had. They actually had the back stock bar wall open with a rotate to drop onto the main stairs, while Dots was also playing on the main stairs to maintain that control. Bleed noticed that they weren't able to get anybody out of stock, so they decided, wow, what a phenomenal shot. They decided to ace open stock to put Cameraman in a ugly position to force himself out of that corner. It was a beautiful collapse from Bleed to get that case down, forcing Los to have to retake onto the site.
Yeah, a wealth of information available as well. We can see there in the overhead at the end of the round, I think it was 7 drones still remaining, and yellow pings, red pings, and on top of the fact there's shock drones, clutch drones as well in play. So that's probably going to be a key factor in this matchup, information gathering. I mean, it always is, but none more so than when you're bringing the double specialist drones like that. So good start for Bleed.
5 seconds to go.
Good confidence builder for them on the attack, keeping in mind that heading into this game, both teams pretty equally matched in terms of attack win percentage. Loss sitting at 39%. Bleed just edging out ahead on 42.
I like the clash pickup here. The last round, Los really looked like they were trying to slow out Bleed, and unfortunately it didn't work in their favor. So the clash just to add that little extra reinforcement of slowing down that last 20-second push. We see him playing aggressive out onto the Ego balcony, giving his position away, just trying to make it that much more annoying to the player on the rappel.
Interesting decision this from the defense and Dots more specifically. Very aggressive. Bleed, of course, could elect to try and collapse on this position. The EMP combo could work out, but it's such an awkward spot to push. Elsewhere, vertical. Maya under pressure inside of Library.
Yeah, Maya getting a little bit pressured here. Reaps was unable to do just this on the Buck last round, losing his life early, but at least able to kind of force Maya back over towards Piano. He takes a big chunk of damage as well. Won't lie, not sure exactly how they're going to deal with Dots on that clash. And like you said, Fox over towards Ego. That means that that's an entry point that is being denied from Bleed's perspective. So it does now funnel them in more so towards Piano, which of course is being watched pretty heavily here by Dash behind this deployable shield. He is that front man here, and a big emphasis on making sure he does not lose his life or this position, but forced away by the flashes. Deployable shield is still up momentarily, but he has fallen back with Loban towards Piano.
The utility clear from Bleed has been phenomenal so far. Step by step, slowly approaching onto the bomb site, dealing with the shields, dealing with the roamers. They've completely been getting rid of every single piece of utility from Lost, but that clash, she's been uncontested out on this Ego balcony. There isn't many positions for the attacking team to entry through when they go through Library, and if she's not pushed back, which we're going to see Line rotate over onto pushing the Clash back. The Clash didn't realize that he was on the rappel and actually fell down. So forget everything I said. It looks like Bleed's in a good position to take the site.
Yeah, that's huge. That opens everything up through Ego. They can go in towards Office now, minute left. They've also got that Piano control, Reaps down below. So you've got Vert, you've got good horizontal here for the Master Bedroom and Office site. 50 seconds. Good shots back though from Maya. Down below on the Warden. Does open things back up, at least for Lost One defensively with 45 seconds remaining. Dash is low on site, holding a key position. Lovely swing from Aspie though to predict that one over towards the half wall, and finds a second as well onto Cameraman, and they should very well know Maya down below on that Warden isn't close to contest this.
Attackers are activating the bomb diffuser.
As we enter the post plant, Maya very low on HP, will need to look for a retake through Piano. He'll creep forward to minimize sound. but Bleed should have the crossfires established. They should be aware of his position.
What?
The trigger discipline from Maya, good for 2. Oh, in the round, it's almost an ace, but Bleed hold on.
I mean, everyone's just holding the same angle.
A scary position. They didn't have the information. We commended Bleed on their information in the prior round. That round, they didn't seem to have a drone or hear the sound cue from Mai creeping through the piano. It almost was an ugly situation, but fortunately, he was able to get 2. He wasn't able to get the 3rd one. And Bleed, even though it got rocky in those last couple of seconds, they did do a very good job on the way that they were clearing the utility, clearing the zombies, clearing the shields, progressing into the bomb site, dealing with the opponents that were put in their way from Los. A lack of adaptability from Los' side.
It's a big let-off. How often at this tournament, especially at this point when you're into the playoffs now, can you make a mistake like that and really let that turn into a round win? They were very fortunate. I think it was Hoven at the end, who now is on 4 kills, was able to at least clutch up. Because, I mean, the trigger discipline from Maya to not shoot immediately as soon as he enters that doorway, gets information, really does kind of show the level that we've got from these players. Lost 1. I mean, not a bad round from them. Liked what we saw from the clash and what they were trying to do, but evidently dealt with by Bleed. And systematically, they've been able to do that at this tournament. You look back at that group of death. They've played W7M, they've played Liquid, Virtus Pro, M80. They've played against all of these top teams. And so far, one thing Bleed have looked really good at in this tournament has actually been their attacking gameplay. And I think you've got to put that down mostly to Julia and what he's been able to do with this team.
Well then, perhaps a little bit of a let-off for Bleed. Great attempt from Maya. That could have been clutch of the tournament, or at least this phase of it. A great attempt, but not meant to be, and lost on defense through the late round, being systematically taken apart by Bleed. As we enter round 3, a focus on Snowmobile early. That breach opened up, and I would anticipate, from what we've seen at Bleed from this tournament so far, that they will split this attack and look to take it apart.
We're seeing a different style of play from Los. We're not seeing any slow denial operators to slow down Bleed. I think Los has understood that they haven't been able to match up well against Bleed's aggressive, sporadic play style and the way that they're taking the map. So they're switching up the tempo, bringing a little more utility to fight Bleed head on. But unfortunately, Dash is going to go down as the library entry confirms from Bleed.
Bleed, once again, will kick off this attack well. Maya continues to look dangerous, and he's down below in support of Loban up above in library. Bleed, though, not playing into this, at least initially. Cameraman also close by on mezzanine. So this is a heavy defense off-site, and Cameraman shot in the back. It's a double for Hoven. 6 kills for him in the 3rd round.
Now, mind you as well, at this tournament, in terms of the teams that are still remaining, second last when it comes to planting percentage for Bleed. So they don't win their rounds by hitting site directly, getting plant down. They like to peel apart these defensive layers. And I think when you kind of look at these sort of sites, basement, chalet, the way teams will opt to play that heavy roam game, I think it plays into Bleed's hands. And we're seeing that early on. 2 kills, clearing pretty nicely. Lost just look a little bit at sea currently. 60 seconds left, down 2 players. Probably want to fall back to side at this point. Dolce at least holding on the Maestro. Needs to be at least good for 1 here if Lost are going to have any chance in this round. Denies the second reinforced wall from being opened up.
We are seeing it. We see a lot of this quote-unquote split theory in the way that Bleed is able to open up every angle of the map and put the pressure from every side. They've been able to completely surround and open up the snowmobile. Now they're opening up the front. They want to make sure that Los is very claustrophobic in the site so that they have to push out these exposed areas if they want to stop the defuse.
Loban looking to create additional cover late in the round with those Zami barricades as Dots pushes forward, but denied. It's Loban and Maya. Loban's good for at least 1 with the headshot now blind. Maya's up above, applying pressure, but Bleed are switched on. They're ready to go, and it's 3 rounds straight.
Yeah, it really shows the strength there of Bleed, basically taking 2 fights, 2 different areas of the map, above, down below as well, hitting site, making sure they're not running out of time. Again, systematically, Bleed have looked really good to begin on Chalet. This is not for the first time, though, Fox, at this tournament. I've seen them do it on Skyscraper. I've seen them do it on other maps as well against top teams. The downside for Bleed, though, is they're great on their map picks. They're really good. So let's not get too overexcited. It's the fact that at this tournament so far, Bleed have been unable to win the opposition's map pick. That's when the real test will be. But so far, good start from Bleed. In fact, even forcing now an early timeout from Lost 1.
Clearly Los look a bit lost in this game.
I don't think you're the first one to say that.
Unoriginal, but unfortunately for Los, with some real analytics, they just aren't able to keep a pin in where everybody from Bleed is. Bleed is doing a great job at keeping up that confusion, keeping up the misdirection, and being able to constantly move. We see time and time again that they're simply losing players without getting a trade. It doesn't help that the only real player making a significant impact on Los is Maya. We're used to him being so good. We're used to him being the star player on this team, but unfortunately, unlike Atlanta, the rest of the team is a little bit quiet so far in the start of the Chalet. So we'll see if this timeout switches up their playstyle that much more than the last shift that we saw in the last 2 rounds.
Well, it does look like we may have a technical pause in a moment, as it looks like the server has disconnected. So an opportunity for these players to stew a little while longer. And I'm sure there's probably plenty of new viewers jumping in for this portion of the event. So a quick reminder that during technical pauses, the players and coaches are unable to communicate. So obviously, again, they had that tactical timeout, so 60 seconds to chat over what's been happening, especially Lost as well, probably discussing
Where were you going,
things
Mentalist?
so far. And Mentalist is feeling a little bit chilly.
A little cold.
He looks like he's just ready to be like, all right, job done, let's go, let's get out of here. Yeah, I mean, as you said, they had the 60 seconds obviously to talk things over, which now obviously means going into tech pause, you can kind of then dwell on what was being said. I guess more so for Lost than Bleed than anything. But 3 rounds in, obviously 3-0 start for Bleed. I don't really think this is going to matter too much in terms of any potential delays that this may cause. Hopefully we can get everyone back in sooner rather than later. But good signs from Bleed so far. When it comes to Chalet though, Fox, 43% attacker win rate. So I mean, I guess that's probably now job done for Bleed, which means for Lost, they can't really afford to give up many more rounds in this opening half with 3 to go. Otherwise, it's going to be a very difficult climb back for them.
They can't let any more rounds slip by, because every side right now is a battle of adaptation, especially on the attack. Especially with the recent meta that's coming to fruition, it's very difficult for you to get these attack rounds. And it takes a little bit of time, round by round, to adapt to what the defense is holding. Bleed have been doing a phenomenal job. Obviously, they've got a little bit of a cushion, but the mental battle to bring it back, especially when you're going onto the unfavored side, is just that much harder when you don't have the rounds, the comfortability to lose. You can't skip away 1 round. You can't try an aggressive play. It really takes a toll mentally on the way that you individually play. Regardless of if your team is prepared, it really puts that extra bit of stress onto your shoulders.
I think the concerning thing for Lost, from what I've seen so far, is that they have tried a couple of different things in terms of measuring their aggression and also their compositions to counter Bleed, and it just hasn't really clicked for them at the moment. And as you highlighted, Fox, I think the trade game has probably been one of the biggest downfalls, especially early round. It's, you know, they had a triple stack, that like a triangle formation, top floor for a basement defense, and at no point did they really apply much counter pressure onto the attack.
We call it like the flying V.
I don't know. I'm sure we could come up with a name. And it just got torn apart. Players giving away their life for free. But that goes back to Bleed. They're gathering really good information, and they have the confidence and the flexibility to play off that at the drop of a dime, right? A lot of other teams, especially from APAC at this tournament, often stall out even if they have information.
Yep.
They often can't put the pieces together and work out how to actually capitalize on it. Whereas for Bleed, despite the seed that they've gotten, they had a really tough group. They were incredibly competitive, and they continue to improve.
Well, the good news is we are back into the server, and maybe the bad news for Lost is even after the timeout that they originally had before the tech pause, they've opted to go back to Snow Wine defensively when I felt like they got picked apart pretty comfortably by Bleed on this particular site. This was one of the more one-sided affairs. Unfortunately, rehost was required, so we'd lose all of those fun little numbers next to everyone's names. But I mean, the only one that was really a standout, at least for Bleed's sake, was Holvin. He was having a really good start to this game. Everyone else pretty much low on numbers. I think Maya as well for Lost 1. But as we go back into this, Snow Wine, big round coming up. In fact, probably a big 3 rounds coming up for Lost 1. When you kind of look at the statistics, when it comes to the defensive win rate of this tournament on this map, they really do need the next 3.
I want to see some adaptation out of Los. We talked about them getting isolated, picked off. Didn't really look like there was any trade potential. It doesn't necessarily mean that they need to turtle or slow things down. We see the K to just be an extra barrier on the site, but they need to put a little bit more calculated aggression in the way that they roam up top. We're seeing them hold library, extending up top with that shield we've seen prior. It looks like they're investing a little more resources to one side of the Chalet
This could be fast,
as opposed to a little bit of everywhere.
I mean, they've got the Osa, they've got Thatcher. Thatcher wall, open it, go deep with the Candelas. Osa Talon Shield up close. Now there is a mirror facing this breach though, and a Nitro prepared. Loban also does get the first pick, so this could be tricky for Bleed.
Yeah, certainly could be. Nitro immediately timed well. I think hit the roof, but it can still deny entry if that Osa does elect to push in. Hoven finds an early kill onto Mai. I think that might have been over towards Blue. Then when he comes in from Fireplace Stairs, goes pro momentarily down onto Reaps as well. So it's only Mentalist and Hoven that is currently standing. It has not worked here for Bleed at all. The fast-paced rush was denied. The mirror, a big factor in that. And Hoven got another kill over towards Shell. Dot's trying to swing. He gets involved. 3 more for Hoven. Now in a 1 versus 2 for Mentalist. Pushes in deep towards Snow. Still a minute 50. Still a lot of time. But unfortunately, he's on an island out in the middle of nowhere. And Dash is going to just send him packing. Much better from Lost One, dealing with that very fast push from Bleed.
Much better indeed. We saw that C4 miss its mark, but end up finding the kill later in the round onto the Osa. Unfortunately, it didn't look like Bleed was able to hear with all the construction that was happening. They responded great. The trades were there. I think Los was able to get a little bit more of an advantage, get those picks down, and then when it was in the 1v2 against Mentalist, they played it very well. A little back and forth, baiting Mentalist into the site. It was a good attempt from Bleed to continue to keep that step forward, always making Los have to think about what's next. And I'm not expecting too much than a little bit more back and forth from Los' side. I really like the adaptation. That timeout clearly helped in their favor, although Bleed made it a little bit easier by going for a rush. That is one of the riskier takes, especially on that basement bomb site.
It's an APAC specialty, really, this kind of rush. So that was the Hoven push, I guess, coming through Fireplace Stairs. That was the differentiating portion of the attack from Bleed. They lost Turd really early, so really, when they got that rush going, it was a 4-on-5. And it's not the worst rush we've ever seen, Gus. How many, blue bunker rushes have we seen on Oregon with the Blitz just look absolutely abysmal, but really well done from Lost defensively. I think, again, that mirror makes a big play. Obviously, the Nitro, yeah, it doesn't do what it originally was intended to, but it still had a secondary option in the end. But Bleed, I mean, to go for that kind of play off the back of the timeout, the stall out that we had from the tech balls as well, I don't hate it. It just doesn't come off the way they would have liked. But obviously for Lost, they win basement and we go back upstairs.
Question will be, can Lost continue to build up the round count here on defense, sensing its urgency? Dining for round 5. Bleed with the tools to deal with the roam clear, and Reach with a very quick entry here inside of Solar. Has information and Hoven to assist, and that is a really good pinch. As Army taken down first, of course, so keeper barriers will no longer be in play once taken down. There is a trade though. So a 4 versus 4, and perhaps the flank watch now well weakened for Bleed.
Los looking to give up the top floor site. They know that they don't have control of it. They got their pick. Still a 4v4. The C4 coming out from a big window, able to take Mentalist down. And it's such an amazing C4 when it hits its mark. Dash gets a pick as it looks like Los is going to push on to Hoven. Hoven gets one. He's going to get taken down and traded by Maya. And Los has actually been able to retake onto the top floor, leaving Turd alone. And a 1-on-4. They'll pick up dots. Case in hand.
Really well executed from Lost to bring that round back, considering they had given up that top floor control. Like you said, for kitchen and dining, an office and bedroom position of the map is so valuable. Obviously, Bleed went really fast. They were able to get good control of it. Forced Lost into action. Unfortunately for Turd, he kind of got stuck outside a trophy. I think obviously playing a pretty key position here, making sure that no one could go for that rotate down below, coming up trophy stairs in towards Solar. It's just that, unfortunately, it was a more direct approach from Lost. They took the battle over towards Piano rather than going for that rotate. And now Turd obviously finds himself in a 1 versus 4. Certainly not impossible. When you take into account Dots and Dash and their health, very, very low. Can he create a couple of 1 versus 1s? 60 seconds left in the round. Obviously just tries to fire out a few shots. Maybe bait some players out. And the kit, I believe, is up above in Solar, being watched by Lost One. Indeed, as you can see there, right next to Dash. And so for Lost One, very much in the driver's seat for this round.
Yeah, unfortunate for Bleed. They got off to a really, really good start. I thought that pinch through bathroom was great, but the response from Lost was up to the task. It's a good banter in the all chat between these two at the moment, as Turd is able to sweep up 1. Just sitting down below, padding stats at this point in time. There's no point really going for it because he's not going to be able to win it out.
We talk about loss, not being able to lose and mistake and give away any more free rounds, and it goes to show you just how disciplined they are in this situation. They don't want to even give Turd an opening. Obviously, somebody peeked through the hatch, got a little overzealous, but they don't want to give away too much of an advantage to potentially let something slip, especially At an event this big, when you have the numbers stacked against you, you have to make sure that you make every single one count. And with Bleed started off well last round. They were able to get an amazing entry into the bathroom. They were able to get a pick. Los responded beautifully. They fell back, waited for the teammate to reinforce up top to have 3 people so that they can commence the retake. And when they pushed through, all the gunfights just went in their favor for the most part.
I should say, by the way, because those at home couldn't see the chat at the end there, but Lost was giving Turdster a little bit of grief, considering he didn't go for it, and the words explicitly were stats, man, as if he's worried about his stats, which, of course, we can't even really see them anyway because of the rehost, but they do get all added up. So 3-2 scoreline. Lost bringing it back, looking a little bit more comfortable here on Chalet. And it all started here. Lovely pinch, like you pointed out, guys, where they were able to overload that bathroom position. But the retake from Lost was essential. It had to be. They needed to, of course, retake this above position. And evidently they were able to do so really successfully.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned earlier, right, is the time to entry for both of these teams being identical at a minute 20. Neither team, or Bleed more specifically, haven't shied away from changing it up, switching it up, being a little bit more aggressive in some rounds and withholding in others. So interested to see how they will conclude the half, being round number 6. The Ying is back in play, so I'm sure that's going to be a key tool in unlocking these power positions that the defense will hold.
A big change we've seen in Bleed's playstyle in the last 2 rounds is how aggressive they're getting in the map. They're getting in, but it's exposing them to these vulnerable positions where they're unable to, I guess, cement themselves into these positions that they're taking, where they're getting their picks from. The first 3 rounds, we saw them pick apart Los. We saw them play slow, wait for Los to make the first move, and it doesn't look like there's too much of a change coming out from Los' side. They're still playing very aggressive, very structured, and stagnant in the way that they've been playing, but Bleed has been going for these aggressive opening entries, and Los is responding perfectly to them by waiting them out, waiting for Bleed to expose themselves in these very open-ended positions, and then playing onto that retake.
So the Rotero there from Turd to scout out library. A couple of key pieces of utility have been spotted out. Magnets, I believe there were some proxies as well. Turd as well can deal with the mezzanine shield quite easily. Something that other teams have actually, unironically, struggled with a little bit at this event, especially on that particular position. So the groundwork here from Bleed is solid, not aggressing as heavily as we've seen in some of the previous rounds.
Going back into taking a little bit more time, clearing out the utility. This is what we highlighted in the first 3 rounds of how amazing they were at just slowly, step by step, clearing everything out, making sure that Los has to worry about everything else around them, and then that's where the kills were able to come on Bleed's side. They were able to push Los into these overexposed positions and always have a 2-on-1 in the areas that they were trying to push.
See Mentalist there, library balcony with the kit in hand, so clearly heavy focus from Bleed's perspective that it is going to be that more direct approach hit for the kit itself, whether that's a hatch drop. Can still, of course, get off of the balcony, go through big window towards game. So options are plenty for Mentalist. 60 seconds left. Outside of him, though, big stack, at least from Bleed's perspective, coming through Piano. Aspie with the Candelas to open things up. He loses his life immediately, though. Maya, great counter, of course, on that Warden. Does get traded in the end. 50 seconds, so still time. Bleed can hold back a little bit if they wish to, but no, the go button has already been pressed. And now Reaps was able to clear that library stairs position. Turn in towards library as well. 40 seconds, plenty of time, and good map control for Bleed.
Yeah, 2 players sight, 1 down below on the fireplace stairs. If he's isolated, it's going to be a challenge here for Bleed, or for Lost rather. Bleed do have a good read over towards backstore. Perhaps Dash, though, can find himself in a playmaking position. Now a double stack backstore here from Lost, and we'll see if Bleed can pick it apart.
20 seconds remaining in the round. Nitro missed Hoven just by mere inches. Dash will be a factor later in this round, still for Lost 1. And of course, that bar stock position still unable to be cleared out. This is a big factor here for Bleed. The fact they haven't been able to clear this position out, Lovin will get some chances. The smokes, though, now start to cover quite a lot of the vision. The run across for Mentalist, and that's with the kit at the half wall at default. That's down with no little time remaining. Dash eventually down, and the kit was picked up. Reaps down with the plant. Lobin, though, gets another one onto Turd. It was the team kill in the end. Oh, Hoven, what a kill! Onto Lobin. A messy round, but in the end, won comfortably by Bleed. They set themselves up early in the round. Good map control towards Library, and Piano eventually hit the site. They couldn't clear Barstock. That was the issue, but in the end, still win the round out. And with that, a 4-2 lead at the half.
That was so close. And we highlighted that they would love to open up the back stock so that they can hold it. A lot of teams on attack open up that to completely expose the people that are playing behind bar stock. But the way that Los is playing, they actually have a player playing on main stairs. I believe it was Dots that we saw creeping up on those main stairs. I want to take a moment to just highlight that Wamai disc. I think we all saw the Capitao smoke in the ceiling blocking off the hatch that was able to completely cut off the hatch players from being able to protect the defuse going on. And Loban almost brought it close back by being able to, off of the back of that smoke. Oh.
Yeah. I think the team got there just to clear the position, of course. Good cover from Hoven. I mean, I highlighted there, right, the double stack Baxter, and I thought it was going to be do or die for Lost. Obviously, if they can hold that, it's a very powerful position in denying the plant, but with the sun was exposing that spot, one of the smokes at least landing and making it a little bit more precarious, obviously made it a challenge. Good shot from Hoven, holds on. It's been a really strong map from him. Already back to 5 kills post rehost. I think he was up to at least 6 at that point. So double digits for him, well and truly. Now as we switch sides, we'll see which team can come out on top. As I mentioned, Jake Bleed on their map picks throughout this tournament have been very hard to take down.
Yeah, they have, and that's been the clear standout. I'm pretty certain they've won every single one of their map picks throughout that group stage. It's the opposition's map pick where they're faulted, and then at times also the deciding map pick. Defensively, not as sound as Lost at this tournament. 52% defensive win rate for Bleed compared to their 58% for Lost 1. But I think you could probably point that down to the maps that they play as well. Bleed like to play these more open maps, a little bit more attacker-orientated. Great start, though, for Loban, and a very early entry for Lost 1 to get rid of a player in Hoven who's been fragging out double digits when you take into account the rehost, and also on the Azami. So that is a massive kill to start the round for Lost.
Loban jumping in while playing Habana. I mean, the confidence in his teammates to isolate that one player. He knows that he can jump into Ego balcony and pretty much push on the backside, and he's confident in taking that gunfight, especially if he goes down, he loses so much hard breachability. So the confidence for him to do that, the trust in his team to go for an aggressive play like that to take down Hoven, who, as you mentioned, guys, is having a phenomenal game. He has been one of the main slayers on Bleed's side. It gives them a good amount of position to now just focus on opening up the top floor, and the Habana is getting open the hatches. Bleed's gonna have to look to potentially flank here from the kitchen bomb site. They have the mirror, but it just got open.
Yeah, Reeps tried to make a play through Piano, but cameraman droned him out about 20 seconds ago, so that play didn't really come into fruition. Of course, the Solace of Turd was nearby as well, so he may have spotted out additional intel gathering tools from the attack that just made that retake a little bit more challenging and something that Bleed don't feel comfortable committing to. Positive signs, though, for Lost that they have been able to maintain this map control. Turd still on the first floor, so he could be a key playmaker later on in the piece. But Bleed are happy to sit back and wait. And in this kind of meta, we're seeing it time and time again where the defense rather doesn't necessarily have to aggress at this point of the round. They can sit back, wait, and force the attack to flush out these spots.
It looks like Los is just trying to get a little bit more information on where all the Bleed players are before the attack comes out. And Reef's going to get a good pick on the stairs. He's going to get dropped onto and traded. Mentalist is going to get one to make things worse. Bleed slowly taking a group out of an advantage of the way that the site is going. Loban's going to push out to get one. Shots are going to fire back, but the pitch is going to come through from Dash.
Really strong from Lost 1. Clearly, you can see a little bit of susceptibleness in the defense when it comes to Bleed, especially on a site like Basement. They opened themselves up, and losing Hoven early on meant they were severely weakened from the get-go. You don't have the Azami for the late game play. Certainly you don't have your top fragger in this particular match. And then obviously you're down a player, stretches that defense thin. It's a really good start for Lost 1, and I think clearly we've seen enough now. Heading into the 8th round, it's a 4-3 scoreline. These teams, we built this as a very close affair, 50-50, hard to really split it. Well, the scoreline right now is suggesting that. Bleed have been great in their attacking rounds. Little shaky to start their defense. Obviously for Los, great start in that opening round as well. And feels like a blessing, guys, a blessing. We're getting some really good attacking siege.
Yeah, and throughout the tournament so far, especially some teams in particular have struggled in that regard. So yeah, certainly a nice switch up and a good start for Lost. Let's have a look back at the replay package from round number 7. There's that opening kill, quick and snappy from Loban. And despite bringing it back to the 4 versus 4, the 2v2 here, very awkward from Bleed, stacked towards that pillar position, deep inside of Wine. Splitting the attack really nicely there, a loss in pinching those players. I don't know if they had, obviously, a read as to directly where they were. They probably did at that point in time, but really good reactive attacking there from Lost. And especially on a side that can be difficult to get yourself into, as obviously you need to show initiative on attack. A great way to kick things off for.
The Blackbeard was a big question mark for me. Where were we going to see it? Where were we going to see him push in? And he was just in the big garage, just trying to abuse the washing machine angles, the head glitches, to just give him a little bit more of an advantage so he's able to win that gunfight. Fortunately for him, he went undetected. Dash was able to sneak through the back and get a nice little 2K to make the round just one more on Los's ladder to climb back into this game on the attacking side.
So pretty quick entry here over towards main garage for Loss, and Loban lurking over towards Ego Belk. Poses a threat to Hoven. Dash has got a West main control as well, so Loss sprawling across the map on this attacking side. Bleed, again, not really eager to contest too much off site. And as mentioned,
wow, that's a concern.
Hoven in that key position slain, and once again it's the Azami to fall first.
Yeah, really strong from Lost One, and the fact that 2 rounds in a row they've been able to get the kills onto Hoven, onto an Azami. At that point you have to kind of ask there, Hoven, the positioning on such an operator that really do need alive as long as possible, basically until the end. Get those keeper barriers generating, get them out into the map, especially on bar games. You want to be really locked down defensively. You cannot afford to be losing players early. But that goes to the credit of Lost One in their approach here on the attack. It's very easy down 4-2 coming into your own attack here in the defender side of meta to just kind of drop your head a little bit, but they look amped up. We saw it in the player camps before. They're really taking the challenge here. Trade back eventually for Asfi, a little bit delayed in that, but still got it anyway. Onto Dash, onto the Ace, so it's a hard breach. Not sure if that will be a factor.
Well, utility coming through then for the attack, looking to clear the remaining key barriers and key positions for the defense. Loban does fall. Officially now a 3 versus 3 as Mentalist able to confirm that pick. Cameraman low and Bleed arguably with the positional advantage.
Bleed's doing a great job at slowly moving around the map. They're going through the basement to retake position that Los isn't playing. They're keeping a track of where every member from Los is so that they can play where they aren't.
40 seconds remains. And a pivotal 8th round here with Bleed being able to offset the loss of Hoven this time around, unlike the round prior. They've got themselves into a position where they look a little stronger defensively, a bit more cohesive, and now forcing Lost One slowly towards the site in needing to clear out some of these key positions. A frag grenade in hand for Dots, but no EE1D. Thrown out, but of course it's nerfed, it's not that strong, and the swing from Reeves comes through anyway. Good drop down from Cameraman to at least get the trade, but as soon as he makes his way into the hallway, he meets his demise, and Bleed have been able to bounce back and answer that 7th round pretty comprehensively here on Bar Games.
Very nice lockdown from Bleed. They did a great job at playing exactly where Los weren't. They waited for Los to drop into the site. The trades came, but the trades went into Bleed's favor just because of the positioning of where they were. They're so hard to pinpoint and track down on the side of Los. They're constantly moving. I got to commend Bleed for the way that they're able to move around the map without being marked. They're doing a great job at shutting down the information game on Los's side.
Yeah, as Bar has developed in the meta, it has become quite a difficult site for the defense to find safe positions to play, and then you add on top of the fact that the Azami was taken down rather so early on into the piece. It is a credit to Bleed in repositioning, finding safe havens to play, good presence of mind, good game awareness, and as mentioned, denying information as well. So confidence builder for Bleed, and a bit of frustration boiling underneath the surface there for Loss.
The operator lineups we see Loss bringing is a lot. It is pretty much to pick off the players on Bleed. It doesn't look like they're bringing too much utility. It is set to get that advantage, get that early pick against Bleed, and they did get it last round. But Bleed did a great job at trading it back and keeping everything close and tight grouped, and then forcing Los to go for this execute. And that's where the operator lineup that Los is bringing ends up struggling because they don't have the utility that Bleed had on their attacks. They aren't able to open up stock. They aren't able to open up all the hatches and all the floor to make Bleed have to move out of these hard solidified positions.
So Kitchen and Dining, 9th round, and Bleed now on the verge of a potential map point. Of course, it is their map pick, and we've prefaced this a lot. They're very good at winning their map so far at the Six Invitational. That's become quite a common theme. It's the ram rush here from Loban through the ego power. The swing isn't effective immediately, but almost somehow Hoven stays alive. I thought it was going to be a 3rd round in a row where he'd lose his life early, but it's trades that come through in a flurry for Bleed. One back from Cameraman makes it that 1 versus 3, but the rush from Lost One has been an utter failure. But until this point, Cameraman has slowly brought it back. The drop down, not good enough. The Mentalist will punish him for missing those shots. Shots that were missed initially, though, on Hoven to begin with from Loban on the entry. How in the world did that man survive? Beyond me. But the consequence now is very much this, it's map point.
Looked like Keanu Reeves in The Matrix, being able to dodge all those bullets through Piano. I don't know how the hell he was able to survive and create the buffer for the trade. Last all round, as I think both teams sensed that that was a very, very messy round. We could see it from our perspective, and I'm sure inside of the server as well. That was a difficult one to track, but 6-3 the scoreline. We'll see if Bleed can back it up with another defensive round.
The execute onto the top floor looked promising from the side of Lowe's. They were able to get into office without anybody knowing they had a player on the bathroom window. But Hoven here just somehow staying alive. Loben unable to getting a pick onto any of the players in Piano. Goes just pretty much bit them on the back. They gave the opportunity for the rest of Bleed to just get those kills onto Lowe's. They had to find an opening pick onto the site, onto the top floor before attacking onto the site, and they just couldn't. Unfortunately, it was just due to that door frame just being as hard as it was. It stopped all the bullets.
I mean, Hoven's on a heater, don't get me wrong, but one bullet more lands onto him there, the round would have played out entirely different. He gets a 2K off the back of it, plus that buffer of time that was awkward inside of offers created an opportunity for a third pick. So that was just super unfortunate for Loss.
Certainly was. The rush attempt, valiant, but falls short. Bleed able to stop it dead in its tracks. And now they got themselves 3 map points on their map pick to begin in this elimination series. Again, a reminder, if you lose this series, you are out of the Six Invitational here into the playoffs to begin day 2. We begin our elimination games. And right now, Bleed are on the verge of maybe getting themselves a 1 map advantage against Lost 1. Reaps on the Solus, doing his job, clearing these drones. Only 5 drones remaining with 2 minutes and 12 seconds. Already a detriment for Lost 1 in terms of the information they can find on a basement site where getting info is so critical in hunting down these roamers.
Lowe's taking a page out of Bleed's book by just trying to open up and establish pressure all over the map. It puts people in these difficult solo positions, and Reaps and Asphy are going to take 2 down onto the individual players that are all the way onto Trophy. Lowe's having a hard time to find a leg in this round.
Well, to give some context, we've all just started to sit down because we think this one might be over. Can Lost change that, though? Can they change our minds? Down 3 versus 5, map point, 90 seconds left in the round. Loben, cameraman, Dash. It's on you guys now to change the fortunes of this round, because right now it's looking like Bleed are about to take their map pick pretty comfortably. Another drone spotted out by Reaps. He's done a sensational job at that in this round, coupled with the kill that he found. 1 drone is all that remains available through Loben. As he makes his way in towards this site, minute 15, they need the next kill, but Footholds make this a very perilous journey.
Lost going in blind, 1 drone standing, and I can only assume a lack of information to go with it. Reaps has done a phenomenal job in this round. Hoven gets another with the Deagle. A 5 versus 2, and Bleed on the precipice of winning their map.
Nitrocell thrown out by Mentalist. It does go boom, but it doesn't find the target. Loben and Dash. Well, he too falls, and Reaps is really putting the nail in the coffin here. And what a flawless way for Bleed. With a fish on the desk and a mannequin behind them, they go 1-0 up in this elimination series against Lost 1, against a strong titan of a team from Brazil in their home country. They already look a little bit perplexed. Bleed 1 map away from sending Lost 1 home.
Reeves putting the final nail in the coffin. His roam was a little too deadly, and it was a little too drastic for Lowe's to bring it back round after round. Showed good promise, but unfortunately, it wasn't enough promise, but we still have a map 2 that we got to get to.
Yeah, we certainly do. Of course, that is a new task at hand, though, for Bleed. So far, unable to win an opposition's map pick. Can they find a way to do it here in this series and send Lost home? It's not a far journey for Lost. Still, nevertheless, they don't want to be departing the tournament this early. We head to a break. When we come back, though, of course, we head to the next map of Cafe.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Bleed. The APAC squad has taken map 1 against Loss. We argued before we started this matchup here on the analyst desk that our APAC squad has the advantage, and indeed, that was seen in map 1, Chalet, which was Bleed's pick, but still an advantage nonetheless. And we're here to break it down. Welcome back to the analyst desk. Got Milosh with me, or Alfama and Anne. And let's start talking about this because strategically also, Bleed looked like they've learned so many lessons so far at SI.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you look at the way they're playing right now, they're really spread out, but whatever they do it together, and I think that's the most important thing. Every gunfight they take is a 2v1. And another thing that I want to point out is how well, and I think Foxay mentioned it multiple times, how well they use utility-based operators. Like Hoven consistently was getting great engagements on attack, winning gunfights, and on top of that using Brava, using Ace to remove the stock player on the bomb site, for example. So removing key positions that would make their execute stronger in the 20 last seconds.
Yeah, despite Lowe's even betting out an operator like Grim, still Bleed were able to track down these operators. It was mentioned on the cast as well, they were executing the split theory very well, and I feel like attack has been such an important subject so far in this tournament. It really stands out with you when you're attacking rounds if you can win out those matchups, and that's something that Bleed were doing really well. Set themselves up for a good attack in half, using a split theory, pinching operators on when they were roaming, especially Library I think was a big part in that, making sure they pinch these roamers, clear that part out of the map for those bar takes, making sure they have the vertical control, and that was something that Bleed were doing very well.
And I think if you look at the early round, I think both teams were kind of similar and equal in terms of level, but when it comes to mid round, I think that's where I started to see the biggest difference in attack from both sides, right? Mid round, you see Bleed taking things together, organizing the way they will execute, how to take the first control before the final execution. And I think when you look at on the other side, Loss, in the mid round, they kept losing the man advantage they gained early in the round.
Yeah, you're right. It was exactly split 50-50 on the opening engagements for the specific matchup. But then if you look at the conversion, that's where, to iterate your point, it really stands out. Lowe's only getting 40% conversion on their opening picks, whereas Bleed are getting 80%. A very big difference. Reeves and Hoven getting really active on the entry engagement. Two players that really stood out to me on this match.
So theory, execution, implementation,
yeah.
Gunfights, every single piece that is essential for a good team in competitive Siege is found here in Bleed, and we're very happy to say it because there's always a negative connotation whenever somebody says, oh, an APAC team, and I'm very happy that Bleed get to prove everybody that they are wrong about it. However, one thing that people don't know, did you know, by the way, if you look into the mirror and say split theory 3 times, Fresh appears in front of you. Something for you to remember next time. But one player that has been living rent-free in some ways in Lost is Hoven. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, I already touched upon it. I think the biggest thing with Hoven right now is that he was the one consistently finding opening kills in attack, while still being on utility-based operators. You see Twitch, Brava, incredible internal gathering on top of getting frags. And that's the biggest thing with him. The biggest value that he brought was being able to capitalize on the utility he had and also getting super important picks. Look at this, for example, at this execution, he removes 2 players in really key, strong positions for the execute to happen.
I love the point you made about APAC as well, right? Because, yeah, they have absolutely no pressure coming in this tournament, but that maybe means that maybe they're underestimating themselves in this regard as well, right? Of course, it's a difficult team to go up against. They were the finalists at Atlanta. Not an easy-peasy team to take down, but they're doing it here as well. And some situations as well, I feel like we've seen it so far during these highlights already, is that when the low players had that peaker's advantage, when they were actively seeking those gunfights, they would oftentimes still lose them due to probably good positioning on the side of Bleed. They were winning their gunfights, crosshair placement on top.
And I think the biggest difference I see here is in terms of spirit when they come into the game. The reason why they're losing so many gunfights, for example, for us, is I feel like their back is against the wall. They don't want to lose to Bleed. They're Brazilian teams in Brazil. They want to win. When you look at Bleed, everything else is bonus. They're having fun. They're playing well together. And whatever gunfights they lose, it's okay. It's fine. Move on to the next round. I think the difference in perspective is really showing here.
Don't let it fester in your head. And they have to do it here. Quick loss, but we can have to say that Bleed are still human, they still make mistakes.
Yeah, there were multiple occasions where I saw like, oh, they could have gotten punished. And you look, for example, this round for Maya, like we're all expecting this to become one of the biggest and most impressive clutch of SI. He gets into piano here. I don't understand why, but they have no information onto piano. And look at all the defenders. One is doing something on the wall and 2 others are watching towards the bomb site. On the other side, nobody's looking piano. So Maya can just crouch around, And this is so satisfying to watch. Ready, 1, 2, 3, boom, boom. And maybe a third one, and it's just that 1v1 that saves them. So Bleed are still making mistakes that they can exploit.
And Los are also showing good things, right? I mean, that garage execute coming out from Bleed, Los were so ready for it. Despite, unfortunately, the missed C4 in the initial engagement, they still managed to, you know, clutch out that round, win out that round. They know what Bleed is about to bring out.
Right. You know what's funny on that one, actually, is that the first opening pick they get is not even after Bleed opens the garage wall. It's actually Lobin jumping out of library window, peeking towards third on Ash, and Ash has 2 claymores in her pocket. She could have just placed that on library before they execute. I think they wanted a rush, but they rushed things, and that was another mistake that Lost could exploit. So coming into the next pack, that's something that they need to look, right? Look for these small mistakes to exploit.
So now let's turn to Cafe Dostoevsky again. If pressure on map 1 was a lot for Lost, here it's gonna get even worse because it is their map pick. That's something that they can have some respite in. However, you lose this map and it's all done for you here at the Invitational, and you don't want to be in that spot. Of course, it's a big piece of national pride. So, Anne, I turn to you. What can Lost do on Cafe Dostoevsky to bring it back?
It's going to be really difficult because they have to start out on the attack. Of course, I mean, you'd expect Bleed to pick out defense if it is the map pick of Los. But looking at recent history, this is actually one of the better maps for Los on their attack. So that is something I'm looking forward to. If they can get a head start on their attacking half, not lose all faith in this regard, then statistic-wise, it's looking still pretty good for them.
Yeah, and if you look at the map itself, if you want to play split on this map, you can do it from outside the windows. So you should be able to get the advantage early in the round and then conserve that advantage by regrouping together from outside the map safely. That's what I want to see Lost doing. Either that or play really grouped when they attack together.
Well, thank you very much. Our casters are ready, so let's head back to our TriCast. Enjoy.
So good news, bad news here, especially for Lost 1. I'll do the good news first. The good news is Bleed have not been able to win the opposition's map pick so far at this tournament, all through group stage. So that's good news for Lost 1. Expected to win here on Cafe. You want to know the bad news? The bad news is Oregon is the deciding map pick. They've beaten W7M and Liquid and M80 all on Oregon for Bleed. So for me, Lost 1 are really up against the wall now.
A tough challenge for Lost lays ahead, but they can kickstart a bit of momentum and confidence here on Cafe. Bleed have struggled against opposition map picks throughout this tournament, yet to get one across the line. They start defense here on Cafe Fox. Let's jump into the ban phase and prep ourselves for what should be a fun game.
It'll be a fun game indeed. We talk about it a lot that Brazil loves playing Cafe. They bring a lot of dynamic, aggressive plays to it, and we've been seeing a lot of it at this tournament. Every team that is primarily slow has been playing aggressive. We've been seeing a lot of Amaru coming out from every team in the tournament on Cafe. We've been seeing a lot of aggressive plays. We know Los love to bring that Osa. They love to bring those shields to get those plants down. So we'll see if Bleed try to target down them. They will be taking out Grim, which is primarily a great operator to be using on Cafe to be out the cocktail area, be able to be out VIP, be able to be out Freezer. It gives you a lot of information on where those defenders are hiding.
Yeah, it's an interesting ban from Bleed, considering that they have played a decent amount of Grim throughout the tournament with good success. I suppose off the back of Chalet, they're confident in their ability to gather information and they can play off drones instead. Defensively, it's his army off the board first, so unlike the previous map of Chalet, she won't get any play time. Valkyrie to follow up. Again, leaves the likes of the Fenrir, though, still in play, and the Solus, which was a key operator, in my mind, from the very final round of Chalet, with Reaps in particular getting the opening kill and draining the economy of those drones for Lost big time. And on a map like Cafe, you think about it, right? It is so difficult. I would argue probably the most difficult map to get drones into, and to especially pre-place, add a Solus into play, and it's almost impossible.
I love that Los went ahead and banned Azami, especially since we saw how comfortable Hoven was playing Azami on Chalet. Although he did go down a couple times early without being able to use that utility, it just goes to show that Bleed is comfortable using it, and Cafe is a map that you can take so much advantage, especially of Christmas, with the Azami closing off the window angles, making it very difficult to get in the map. That also ties into your point about the drones. Also, after your drone is getting into the map, that is the biggest challenge when we approach Cafe.
Yeah, in terms of the ban's difference with Chalet, so, I mean, Grim and Valk, once again, banned out respectively. That means the Dokkaebi and the Legion has made its way through. This time around, Ying, Azami, pretty good bans. I'm not too surprised by that. And we head to reading in 5th place to begin. We've seen a lot of teams back in the group stage when it comes to Cafe, still kind of lingering over towards Bar Cocktail, but that has proven to be a really, really awful site to defend at this tournament. In fact, really, when you look at Cafe, it is the second best attacking win rate. What a turnaround for a map that, you know, historically has usually been a map where you can go and favor the defense. I guess in this super defender side it's better. That has flipped a little bit. So second best attacking win rate does mean in this first half, 4 lost 1. Might not need to be 3-3, but at least close enough to a good twitch early on here from Loben, getting rid of these Vulcan canisters. Does miss the default, gets it with the second shot, and then this is the start that Lost need. They need early good rounds. They need to get opening picks. I thought Bleed were in control a lot on Chalet. They were setting the pace, setting the tone. Here now to begin attacking in this first half. Lost One need to replicate that. Bad news is they've just lost Dash, and so already a good start for Bleed with the opening kill, courtesy of Reaps, who really started to pick up the pace on Chalet.
Twitch a key operator in this attacking lineup. Of course, a lot of counterplay available. You think about the Electro Claws from the Kaid. The Goyo canisters popped as well, pre-execute Fenrir Mines, mirror windows. So Loben, even if he isn't able to find picks and kills in this particular round, his impact can still be felt.
And Bleed have a good control of the map right now. They don't need to move. They don't need to go out anywhere. They've done the hard job, which is getting the pick on Cafe. And now it puts all the pressure on Los to have to sacrifice time and positioning to be able to get a little bit more control, but Bleed is just be able to sit behind their mirrors, behind their Electro Claws, and they don't have to necessarily worry about anything too out of the ordinary before Los makes their first move.
Well, Dot's now inside. Stark looking too. Agreus almost catches Aspie on the rotate. Back down below. He can, though, take the ground in response as Aspie looks to get back towards site. Now inside of Pillar. Potentially, though, an awkward position for the attack to clear if they are lacking information. 3 drones are down, so it shouldn't be the tallest of tasks, but it is a 4 versus 5, and Lost will want to get to work elsewhere. Of course, Buck in play, so vertical could be the name of the game.
Bleed gave up full top floor control. They are playing the stall game. They already have that advantage, so now they need to make everything be on Los' shoulders. They don't want to give any free picks, no free positioning. They need to make Los work for it.
Most are certainly working for it, though, late into the round. 35 seconds is all that remains. Dots gets rid of the F0, and it can go for that drop down, go for the default plan. Rush in towards reading. Aspie just looked away, but hey, from one target to another from Aspie, gets the double kill inside of Pillars. Now really setting and nailing down this advantage that Bleed have, and Holven should be able to at least get one. He did. The down onto Cameraman. The trade comes through from Maya. Gets the time now to go for this revive, but in terms of the last 2 members of Lowe's, they are both known to the remaining members of Bleed, and they are not going to allow them into the site. Not while Reaps is in the server. A strong defensive start for the side of Bleed on the opposition's map pick really sets the tone nice and early for them.
A start to finish textbook defense from Bleed. Get the first pick, play up top, stall the time, fall down. And then they just scurried around the site, picked a position, picked a location, and made Los have to find them. And unfortunately, Los did not find Aspie. He was tucked up under P1 in the pillar area, completely uncontested. Until Los, the time was put on their backs. They had to then try to make it into the site, shoot the Fenrirs, and go one step at a time, and Aspie was there. He was able to pick up 2, and that inevitably is what shut down Los's execute. They did not only have time, but they just didn't have the bodies to make it into the bomb site.
Pretty gnarly opening pick there from Reaps, and as you mentioned, Jake, he really started to fire up towards the back end of Chalet. Heading into this game, top-rated player for Bleed. In fact, he was the only positive-rated player on the team. Ironically, Hoven, who popped off on the previous map, was the lowest rated. So it goes to show that Bleed can show up individually when required. And for Lost on their map pick, who is going to be the player to step up for them on this occasion?
So, 1-0 start, probably not what Lost would have liked. In an ideal world, especially on a map where attacking is quite prevalent, at least at this event, the fact that they've given one over to Bleed early on, and Reap so far looking like he is beginning to activate, not just in this series, but maybe at this event. High expectations for such a talented player. But so far it's been the Holven show. 16-6 back on Chalet. And we've seen Holven and Aspie really ignite this Bleed roster and make it a formidable 5. We know how good Turd has been. Mentalist, defensively, Clutch is sound. One of the best players at the tournament when it comes to defending on site. And it felt like maybe for this team to go one super next level, it's Reaps to really get to his best. If he's finding it here, watch out.
This is the map that we highlighted was so important to get good footings on your attack. And so far, we haven't seen that aggressive style of play from Los just yet. It looks like they're still playing last season's meta of going slow, taking their time, creating the utility, and that's exactly what Bleed wants. They're bringing out the Mirror, they're bringing out the Solus. We saw how devastating the Solus was on Chalet, completely getting rid of all of Los's information, making it so claustrophobic to attack on it. And now, just to add matters worse, they have the castle. We saw a little bit on Chalet. It didn't find as much success, but on a map like Cafe, where everything is a lot more window dependent, the castles cut off a lot long lines of sight, and the only thing that can get rid of them is a Gone or potentially an Ashe, and we've already seen one of the Ashe be used on not a castle.
Perhaps the lurk potential here from the attack will pay dividends, and it's Maya to get the first. Reaps falls, information onto the second. Hoffin! They're struggling to deal with him. An eventual trade though, 3v2. Loban to aggress over towards White Stairs, just to slow down the round once more. 2 versus 2, 70 seconds on the clock. Mentalist hits the air jab, and Turd needs to lock down sight.
Just in that moment, again, it reminded me of that whiff back on Chalet, those little moments that are just going against Los One. And obviously for Bleed, they're in a position now where they're just starting to punish it. They're not allowing Los to obviously get away with those kind of mistakes where those shots aren't landing. Kit has been, of course, located as well for Turd. 45 seconds left in the 2 versus 2. It's not necessarily must-win territory for Los Fox, but this does feel like a pivotal round in a 2 versus 2. Getting that plant down, can they convert?
They have the Solus for the information of where the plant's going to come down. It looks like Los has a good understanding. They're going to try to plant on the table, but that's where the information will be relayed to Mentalist so that he can potentially find the angle. I don't think Turd can see this case go down. He will go down. He will get the shot, but Mentalist drops, and now it's a 2-on-1 for Loban. He's going to be playing inside of the dining hallway.
The fact that he was able to get that kill, but then the fact that at the very moment he got the plant down does now give Loban a chance. It's a very minute one in 1 versus 2, down the hallway. Does he have a good sightline to be able to swing as soon as someone gets onto that plant? Mentalist and Turd, what is the game plan? Right now through 90, they double stack push together. Still have to push in. Nice swing from Loban, now creates the 1 versus 1. Shoulder peek, fire from Turd. He gets on it. Does he fake it? He has to get off because of that skeleton key from Loban. He's playing this perfectly. There's not much that Turd can really do. Needed to stick it at that moment, get the kill. No time remaining. Well done to Los, that's much better. Teabag from Turd. Yeah, but it's Lost who got the round.
Turd frustrated at the result of that particular round. He did a decent job in positioning himself for plant denial, but good presence of mind and a great read from Lost, planting in, I want to say, quote-unquote, a safer position. Turd arguably, though, was in a position to deny the plant. He just clipped the metal bars, and by the time he found the pick, the diffuser was set. Loban then, in the 1 versus 2, set himself up so nicely. Great position, great discipline, knew exactly how to play into the clock.
It was a very good read from Los to understand the Solus is downstairs. We have to be careful on where we plant. They able to find the one plant spot that Solus wasn't necessarily able to stop the plant. Obviously, when the case went down, Turd was able to find that little head peeking out. But because they relied so much on the Solus, Turd communicated to Mentalist that he should not push. He needs to play for the denial. So the castle was unable to make a little bit more of that gap be closed so that he can get rid of the other member from Los. That put Loban in a perfect situation to play the closet. He was able to get 1 pick, and then he played the time beautifully off of the skeleton key. He knew he didn't need to go for that pick necessarily. He just needed to burn the time down and make the Bleed just not be able to defuse the case.
Round 3 we go then. Over to Kitchen, and the Monty will see some playtime. We haven't seen a Montang, or a Blitz for that matter, throughout this series so far, and I'm intrigued to see how Lost will employ it. Maybe use to help expedite that push a little bit, get some map control with the safety of the shield.
We talked about it before the game started, that Los loves playing the shields. They primarily like to use the Monty to drop into the freezer and cross over to the coffee angle. It provides a lot more safety than just running across. That is the common plant spot on the basement site. And so I'd imagine they're going to use the Monty to completely clear the top floor of the map and push Bleed's aggressive individual roamers back, and then use it for that post plant.
Similarities again when it comes to Chalet. Reaps on that Solus. He's doing a good job of taking out those drones. 2 minutes to go. 5 already have been destroyed. Probably less so required when you do have that Montang. Basically is like a human drone, can get into good positions, garner good information. Reaps obviously seeing if there's anyone still outside. Hoven maybe getting aggressive too. Bleed showing that they are very proactive on the defense, not just going to sit still, not going to just give free map control over the lows. Reaps the drop down in through Freezer, back towards site, feeling as if maybe job done. Only 4 drones remaining, just over a minute and a half left in the round. And at this point, smart from Bleed to just fall back. Yeah, Lost have been a little slow in these attacks so far, so let them go. Really slow paced. They'll have only probably 20-30 seconds then to hit site. Bleed will have all players up. I think so far, Bleed have been pretty happy with the way the round has developed. Very happy with the way that they've been able to deny the information from Los. That Monty did save them a little bit of time in the areas that they were losing information, and I think that's why Los wanted to bring it, to make sure that they can get through the map progressively quick and not be struggling on the amount of time. Bleed has put themselves in a great position, though, to where they can play these little pixel areas in Coffee inside a Freezer, and as we see the buck angle come out, Hoven's going to get a shotgun shot through the floor.
Pressure on Mentalist now in the shield in play. As you mentioned, Fox looking to try and get the plant down over towards Coffee, but Bleed step up to the mark. Not going to allow that to happen. Cameraman now a 1 versus 3.
And it just feels like in that moment, I mean, Cameraman obviously wanting to play Vert up above while everyone else is hitting site, but he just had no impact in that round at the end there. So essentially for the side of Lows, they're going into site with a disadvantage. They don't have all of the numbers. Not everyone can get involved. We're seeing that though from Bleed defensively. Again, you kind of think back to that middle portion of the round. Good information denial from Reaps, clears out the drones. There's only like 4 left, minute and a half. They don't then overcommit. They don't overstay their welcome. They head back to site and they say, okay, well, you got to come to us. And clearly Lows have kind of struggled a little bit in going towards Bleed and pushing into these sites. And so far, really strong start from Bleed. Considering the circumstances, it's not their map pick. They're on defense first. Yes, defender side of meta. But again, this is the 2nd best attacking win rate map at the tournament, 47%, which means they probably only need like 1 more round or so, statistically. Statistically. We saw Hoven get the shotgun shot through the floor. We talked about that info denial being so crucial because it allowed Mentalist and Turd to be able to play under the Freezer and have a beautiful crossfire to deal with that Monty. They understood that the Monty was coming. They set up perfectly for it, and we saw I just have to highlight how perfect that shotgun shot was, because when you make a buck hole from that position, your area is very limited on where you can buck these positions. So the fact that you were able to predict where that buck will be through the floor, I mean, that was a phenomenal play from Hoven that inevitably put his team in that strong position, because the buck can't get rid of these little pixel areas that we talked about before the execute commenced. It's the Hoven and Reap show, but it's not like they're winning only because of them, guys. They're just super influential.
Yeah, I mean, Mentalist deserves a lot of credit in that last round, and as you mentioned, he's probably been one of the best anchor / late round defenders at the tournament. It's been a bit of a life tournament for Mentalist, considering that he has now been around for quite some time. Obviously, a lot of experience stretching as far back as the likes of Fnatic as well. He was a part of that really famous victory against G2 back in 2020 at this event. Long time between spells for him, but clearly showing that he's as hungry as ever to really put a dent in the tournament.
What does this mean for Los now, Fox, though? Down 2-1, you're already down 1-0 in the series. They obviously can't get complacent. They're certainly not at this point, and they've given all of the respect to Bleed in their approach in these rounds. Very slow pace, making sure they don't over-aggress positions, but maybe is that a sign they should look to pick up the pace a little bit? I think it is a sign that they should, because they brought the Monty, they wanted to go for these executes, and it's the 2nd time that they go for the execute on the plant, and it doesn't go in their favor. So going forward, they have to be able to understand that this is exactly what Bleed wants us to do. They want us to go for this plant. They want to stall our timeout. We have to pick up the aggression and pick up the pacing on the way that they enter the map. They can't just be sitting on these windows relying on Bleed to make the first move, because Bleed is not making the first move.
Interesting attacking philosophy, right? Bleed obviously with a much smaller plant percent comparatively to their opponents, whereas Lost continually trying to look for that win condition. The Jackal is in play this time in exchange for the Monty, primarily in clearing the roam. Asfi currently holding up above inside of Cocktail, has a crossfire with Hoven. And this is probably going to be the key part of the round if Lost can unlock it. They do. Turd, though, elsewhere, able to find one top white stairs.
Yeah, better here from Los in terms of this top floor clear, playing off with the Jackal. You can see with the Inox scanner, that was the last one used by Dots, but it does get the kill at least onto Turd, and it gives them an advantage, something they haven't really had a whole lot of. So certainly a lot better from Lowe's. Picked up the pace, clearing these positions, good vert control. Now over towards Cocktail has been established with still 50 seconds left in the round. This does feel like Lowe's chance to maybe get a second round on the board.
It could be, but this is where we saw them struggle on the prior reading round with the amount of time it takes for them to open up the floor and then drone out the players and then go for the execute. They have to worry about any secret players that are playing from Bleed's end, but Bleed is slowly playing back. They want to rely on the C4s to deny that plan and the fires to keep them at bay.
So no Nitrocell in terms of Bleed and what they can maybe do to try and offset this vertical advantage for Lowe's. Dots wants to go in for that default plant once that Vulcan canister extinguishes. Into red time it will go when the flash is for the entry, but he's just standing in the doorway. It's an easy swing from Reaps' perspective. The plant, though, of course, does come through from Dash, looking for that default position. Could get denied. No. Great pressure from Loban. The plant does go down into 1 versus 1. Reaps on the floor. He does only confirm the kill onto Loban, and he gets the second as well. Fall from Reaps. He said coming into this tournament, you better start to learn Chinese, and for good reason. He is putting on a clinic here on Cafe. 9-1 from Keanu Reaps.
The trash talk coming out from Bleed, and I think they rightly deserve it. We were mentioning, right, that the vertical pressure from up above from Lost naturally forcing the defense back, but that key position inside of Laundry, when uncontested, Reaps was able to swing wide with the SMG, good for one, then reposition for the trade late into the piece. And the shotgun, specifically at that range, especially post-buff, very difficult to see him lose that engagement. So really good work there from Reaps and a great retake from Bleed.
Los was showing some good promise in the way that they were taking upstairs a little faster. They got that opening engagement early on, but it's the time that it takes for them to clear and the angles that they're clearing. It's almost as if there isn't necessarily rhyme or reason to what they're opening, because the hatch is completely open in Laundry and they're completely leaving Reaps uncontested. They give them exactly what they want. They're playing behind the fires, trying to go for these executes, and that's exactly what Bleed wants. Bleed isn't contesting that. They're sitting back, they're waiting to be put in these positions to where they can win the round off of the defuse having to be planted. And obviously, I mean, like you said, Keanu Reaps is just tearing holes in them.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it, though. Obviously, great start for us. And we were kind of asking, should they pick up that pace? You bring the Jackal. So you drop the Montaigne, you bring the Jackal, you speed it up a little bit, you clear that top floor. Really solid. I mean, it's nothing too crazy. A little bit defaulty approach when it comes to Cafe, but they did it well. They had the 4-on-3 advantage, and from that point, we're singing their praises. But then it ends up being a triple stack push towards default on the entry. Where's the white stairs pressure? Where's that Laundry pressure? Where are you making Bleed look at multiple angles? Instead, it's all just focused in on that one doorway, and that then becomes a bit of a slaughter.
It always comes back down to the information. Los is lacking the information on their attacks, and because of how scary Bleed have been playing in the positions that they're able to hold and maintain that's being uncontested, it looks like Los is honestly a little scared in contesting some of these angles, unprepared, undrone. They don't want to end up losing that advantage, end up losing somebody to pushing down white stairs or jumping down the Laundry hatch. And because they're playing scared, it allows people like Bleed to gain that advantage.
Big start, at least, in the round again for Lowe's. 2 rounds in a row where they've been able to find these opening picks. Meyer on the rappel, catching off guard Reaps, and a big player. Obviously, 2 shut down. Looking for this kind of cigar shop extension again with the castle barricades, and a second to come through from Dash. Low on that gridlock, but gets the kill onto Turd. Bento's able to get one back. Does kind of salvage the round a little bit. 90 seconds left. Still a lot of time here. But again, we're in the same predicament, are we not, to the round prior, where it's this 4 versus 3 for Lowe's, putting pressure on Bleed. A little bit of that almost sight control. It's bar cocktail. You don't need that much room. So Lowe's are in a really good position, but again, like the last round, will they actually fall apart, or can this time they capitalize?
Yeah, the rappel game from Lost has been immaculate thus far. And only a few seconds ago, there were still 3 players on rappel to try and cut off these rotations from the defense. Good trade up above. 2 versus 2 though, and Hoffen in a scary position for Lost to clear if this goes undroned. Only 2 available to the attack. 1 for Dash, who's low on HP. As for his position, perhaps now revealed off the back of the edge, I bet you can see the counter information available here to the defense.
Los trying to connect the dots and get a little bit closer together. Hoven tucked up behind some safety as Asvi is a little far away. He does have the ability to use that Solus to call the plan. Dash is going to go and down, pushing into Freezer, and now it's a 2-on-1 for Bleed.
Not even in a position to get the trade there, Loban. Now it looks as if it's falling apart unless he can pull off something crazy here. Create these 2 1 versus 1. Just push Aspie, make the 1v1. Can't get the trade, but even on the vault, it's still Aspie that gets that win in that moment, despite the high ground advantage being there for Loban on the vault. From down below, and watch there as Aspie hits the shots, and those shots are starting to really sting for Loz as they're realizing that their tournament here at Six Invitational is very much on the line. They are 3 rounds away from being kicked out of this.
And the start of the round there for Lost was so clean. Again, the rappel game was great, flushing out the likes of Washrooms, giving themselves a 5-3 advantage, able to find some trades at least on the top floor, but others fell wayward. Again, though, it comes back to the information. The Solus in play is causing so many issues here for Lost. Again, great couple of first picks to kick things off, but you look at that drone counter top right, only a few remain at this point in time. Later on in the round, even fewer. Even with shock drones in play not proving to be enough, and the counter information available to Bleed is great, and that's allowing them to play in right positions that are so challenging for Lost to clear.
But that's just the credit to Bleed. Throughout the series, back on Chalet, now here onto Cafe, the trend has remained. The Solus play has been absolutely perfected. They're clearing out the drones. They're making it hard, like you said, Fox, in terms of getting that information for Lowe's, and I think that's been a big factor. So, I mean, right now, Bleed are just playing some really, really good Siege across the board. We saw it on the attack on Chalet. We're seeing it now on the defense of Cafe, and the fact is, again, mentioned it, they've never been able to win an opposition's map pick at this tournament, but they're 3 rounds away. I mean, that already kind of says what this team can do.
It sure shows a lot of promise. I've been a big Bleed supporter since I saw them perform in Atlanta. It really is coming down to the information, and information is what we're going to see Mentalist bringing on the Pulse along with the Solus to really hard down on potentially retaking in the later rounds. On the other side for Los, to me, bringing out the Monty again seems as a sign of desperation. We know that they're comfortable on the Monty, but it doesn't look like they're necessarily bringing anything new. It looks like they're just trying to make sure that they don't mess up what they already tried to attempt.
Dockerby in play as well. Was in play. First Logic Bomb did go off and perhaps lulling the attack to a false sense of security. It's 10 kills for Reaps, who continues his reign of terror. Hoven will once again peek outside bot white. He gets a kill this time around, and it's unraveling for Loss.
I feel like Hoven's done that almost every single round, or at least he's tried to and get into that position. So that's not the first time. I'm not sure if Lowe's were aware of the fact that Hoven has been aggressive there up towards bot white, but clearly catching them off guard at this point in the half when he's been doing it every round, that really does sort of nail home that Lowe's are making these little errors.
And the C4 from Mentalist, it looked like they were trying to completely replicate the exact same basement defense they did the prior round. We saw the peek onto the player onto the white window in the first round that they attacked on this site, and it didn't work out. But now, perfectly going into exactly what the game plan that Los knew. Julio showing an immense amount of coordination and information, bringing in the understanding of how these Brazilian teams play.
I hate to say it, but this was looking absolutely terrifying for Lowe's. From second in Atlanta to potentially being knocked out at this point in Six Invitational already, guys. It really is a testament to what Bleed have been able to do as a team throughout the last 12 months in their improvement since Julio joined the roster. They just get better and better and better, more experience. You don't count out Lost just yet. We know how good they can be. Good kill back from Dash. And when they lost the last 2 rounds with a 4-on-3 advantage, maybe with the 3 versus 4 disadvantage, they could find a way here towards Kitchen.
Pretty obvious pivot then from Lost. Coffee will not be the set play this time around. Instead, through prep, Dot's now trying to find a safe plant position in sight. Keeping in mind there's line of sight to the left that exposes Red and Closet. Cameraman does have that cross if the defenders are forced forward, and without a Nitro in play, they may be forced to.
Turn around, plant, turtle here from Dots. Is there a response? Not a straight away one. No Nitro cells available. Lovely shot from Aspie. How many of those have we seen from Bleed? And from down below as well, through the floorboards, and just like that, as the plant goes down, the round is over. But for Bleed, not for Lowe's, and Bleed make it a 5-1 defensive half on Cafe. And again, if you're wondering, well, it's the defensive side, it better. 47% attacking win rate on this map at this tournament. Second highest. And they have shut down Lowe's. 2 more rounds required for Bleed.
We talked about Cafe being one of those maps that is very attacker-sided, a little more attacker-sided than some of the other maps, but it's because of the aggression that a lot of the teams at the tournament are innovating and bringing, and there isn't much aggression on the side of Los. Bleed is, again, playing it phenomenally in the end there. All 4 members from Bleed sitting back, waiting for Los to go for that plant, and as soon as we saw the turtle shield plant go down, that's when everybody from Bleed commenced onto the site. Wow, what a shot through. Reaps is definitely surprised he hit that shot. I mean, I'd be upset if you're Los watching back the VOD. You have to be upset over a shot like that. The top floor is where you want to be able to play that post plant, but when you get just shut down like that, it just feels every single step going against you in this match.
I had the pleasure of casting Bleed versus Virtus Pro. I personally think that third map was one of the best maps that we've had in the tournament in terms of maybe more so entertainment value and what we were able to get from that. Bleed lost 12 rounds in a row in that series. That's right, they lost 12 rounds in a row, and I'm saying it was good. Why? Because they turned it around on Clubhouse. They were able to actually bounce back mentally. So this is a team that has that mental strength. On their Skyscraper in that same series, it was the best attacking siege I've seen from an APAC team in 4 years. They had systematic game plans. They really could understand what they wanted to do as a succinct unit, and clearly Julio's got them to a level that we've probably not seen from an APAC team maybe since 2020, maybe since Fnatic. But clearly this is an opportunity now for Los on the defense. They cannot give themselves up. They cannot lower their heads. They cannot feel as if that sense of dread of being eliminated from this tournament is going to envelop them. They need to just bounce back, hold themselves accountable. You're on the defense now. You can make things happen here. And they go to Bar Cocktail to try and commence a comeback.
For Bleed then, the storyline is all about conversion. They have not won an opposition's map pick at SI24 thus far. They have not been in this position. Loban under pressure now. Reeks just sends it straight through the rappel. And despite having coverage behind that deployable shield, he will lose that fight untraded. Loban, though, exposes himself to the upside down rappel.
Yeah, Loban's probably been a real standout individually for Los, but he needs some help, and certainly now that he's no longer alive.
It puts Los on a stressful position because this top floor bomb site is currently the worst rated defending site in all of Cathay. It's very difficult because how you can play those windows, and we saw it. Reeves went for an aggressive play jumping through white window while his team protected both sides of the white hall. He wasn't able to catch anybody off guard, but he did get a little bit of damage and made Loban have to position himself, especially since Los took off the Azami. It is very aggressive to be playing inside Christmas.
I'm glad you mentioned that. When you go back to the first half, it was reading fireplace, it was mining, it was kitchen. Those were the first 3 rounds. Bleed understood that this site is not something you really want to go to defensively. Does them make and beg the question as to why Los has begun here on Bar Cocktail. 60 seconds left, 4 versus 4. Keanu Reaps, though, he's not quite going to be able to do his thing, at least this time around. But neither can Loban for Los, who's been a standout. 50 seconds left. Turd now starting to get a bit of pressure close towards site from shot, and he's got some aid as well. It's Acme. Talk about just walk in, get the kill. Turd did lose his life, so not so much of that Guardian pressure there for Bleed. Fortunately for Los, it's now a 2 versus 2, and the plant got denied. Still a bit of time here to salvage this. Great shot from Mentalist. He makes himself known. It's just down to Cameraman in a 1 versus 2.
Sneaking forward now. Information available to Cameraman. One of the most experienced players in Siege. Can he clutch it out?
They're going for the revive, double red ping. Cameraman knows exactly where they are located, and he knows that they're both up now. He has that information, can't hit the first shot. They swing together, and Bleed are 1 round away from sending Los out of 6 Invitational. The fall from such heights of Atlanta is an oh so long fall for a team that just look lost at this point. About to get 2-0'd here in the playoffs, 7-1'd. These are damning numbers. This is a horrible, horrible end potentially forming for Los.
It is horrible for Los, but Bleed is playing out of their minds. The way that they position themselves in that man advantage situation, both peeking Cameraman at the exact moment. They didn't want to give him a 1v1. That is textbook Siege, and that just goes to show how good the communication from Bleed is on all ends. Even though they lose the man, there's always a trade right behind it, and they have the game plan. They knew Cameraman was flanking out on the back, and they were all set up as they picked up the teammate and posted up for that specific flank.
I think for me, the key difference between the 2 teams in that sort of scenario is Bleed are willing and able to flex around different win conditions and instead go for the plant, go for the trade. I can't help but feel that Los in that exact position would have continued to go for the plant, continued to go for that condition. It wouldn't have worked out, and unfortunately wouldn't have gone their way. But I mean, props to Bleed, man. They are playing incredible at the moment.
Even that entry from Aspie, like you've got Kit, he's walking in, he knows he's probably going to get one there. They don't have the numbers advantage. He can't just walk in, go for the plant. He's got to have gun up, ready to go, hits that headshot, then goes for the plant, even then after losing turret. So it really does sort of highlight for Bleed. They have multiple options in these rounds. Like, again, it's not this one-man approach. They lost Reaps early. Reaps has been the standout in this game. Hoven was the standout in the last game. So they've got so many pieces across the board. We mentioned Mentalist and how strong he's been. Aspie then in that moment, and we know how good Turd has been as well.
Aspie was also on the Hibana, and we noticed with how aggressive that Bleed have been playing, they know exactly when their job is done and what they need to do, and that is a little bit of the Brazilian playstyle. When you see an opening, you take the opening. Aspie saw the perfect moment to push in, and he ended up getting that trade onto Freezer, which gave them, obviously, the round lead.
We know their pacing has been strong as they look to overload this bakery position. 4 dots away, throws out the gas babe, understanding that that Montang is not something that you want to deal with. They need to win 5 rounds in a row for Los to keep their life alive here at R6 Invitational. 2 minutes, but already bakery control because of that Montang and that push in from Bleed. Again, when you look at this team, it's a team with game plan. Every single round, they know what they want to do, and that's all about executing it. And so far, this SI, they've been so good at executing these game plans.
Vertical pressure, though, the name of the game for Los, and that is not being directly pressured by Bleed at the moment. Of course, still an opportunity to fly deep towards site and perhaps have a lurker up above to contest in the late round, but just something to keep in mind.
There's not much protection on the first floor, and they have that Monty to be able to get into the rice area, which is very difficult to stop the plant from. And at the end of the day, we know that they have the vertical pressure, but it won't matter if the information's not there from Los. They only have smoke in the site to give that first information. As we say this, Maya takes down Monty. That is a big blunder on the side of Bleed.
Yeah, and Lobin still has a bit of that train control as well. Mining too hasn't really been taken over. Second kill from Dash, and maybe just prolonging this match a little longer with those 2, now 3 kills, as Darts has done a significant job on that smoke to deny any kind of early pressure in the round through that bakery push. Much better here from Los. No real mistakes. They fell back to site, played the angles, and certainly this is the kind of round we expected a little bit more from them throughout this match.
I mean, as Fox mentioned, right, the Monty is such a pivotal part of the round there for the attack. If he's able to vault over the prep double window, get across turtle plan and protect himself from red flares, it's so challenging for the defense to be able to deal with it. So by disrupting it and not allowing that to take place, that's a huge win in the column for Lost. And obviously Bleed at this point in time, they have a buffer, but they just have to be careful because if Lost fire up, they could be a formidable force towards the back end of the map.
Even though that was a great round from Los, it was a big mistake on the side of Bleed. It has to be an even playing field there, and I would say that I think the match point gave Bleed a little bit of the confidence, because losing your Monty first is no mistake. You shouldn't be going for any of these exposed places without knowing if there's holes above you, holes to your sides. You have to be able to be calm and collected.
In saying that, I think throughout this series, Los have probably not capitalized and punished maybe on some of those mistakes that Bleed at times have made. We saw it back, I think it was Alfama who mentioned it on the desk. And so that's been a bit of a difference maker. In this round, it's like, oh, we punish it. And look at that, then we're able to deal with the rest of the round because we're not really allowing them to get away with these mistakes. Flawless in the end. Not often we've seen Los go flawless so far. And even though they lost the round, Bleed certainly feel like it's still all smiles because they're up 6-2, 4 match points, 4 series points. And even for Los, a couple of fist bumps, but understanding the task at hand is a daunting one, a long one.
5 seconds to insertion.
If you're Bleed, you can feel a little bit comfortable, a little bit of comfort with being up. Such an amazing advantage, obviously being on defense, being on attack. They just need to make sure that they're not giving away those free picks that we talked about in the last round. It was some nice shots on the side of Los. If Bleed is able to tighten up a little bit and not give away any free picks or any free advantages, they just go step by step. It looks like they have the game plan. They have everything in the palm of their hand right now. It's really on Los' side to be able to go out and get these rounds back to claw themselves back in.
It's an interesting defensive composition, right? When you consider that Bleed often do not go for the plan. It's not a big win condition for them, yet Echo in play. I suppose, though, you can still roam with that information. The Yokai drones are pretty versatile in that regard. And Solace, of course, you can deny drones as well on a map that is very, very difficult to gain information on at the best of times. So I'm intrigued to see, especially where Maya in particular will play this round himself and where he'll station that information. That's one Yokai down. I suppose he's probably still got another in the pocket, but something to keep an eye on throughout the mid-round.
But we talk about information, and Solus already 0 impacts, unable to play from below. Both Yokais, one Yokai was taken down, the other one we haven't seen just yet. So if it comes down to the information, they're sorely lacking on it.
Not the start to the round that Los would have liked to again Sigloop and go down early, find themselves at a disadvantage. Reinforcement there from Dots. Dash still up above towards Planks, top white control that he's got in terms of those stairs as there's pressure coming over towards Piano. Mentalist just a little swing from Pixel. Doesn't want to try and play off of that ping information. Maya finds another kill. Has started to really step up as well for Los. They do lose Dash though on the Wamai. And will Magnus generate as well throughout the round. A couple of flashes available as well for Bleed. They will be prevalent. Minute and 13 seconds left. A 3 versus 4. Could this be Los' elimination in this round, or Cameraman, Maya, Dot, can they make a hero of themselves to keep this game going?
4 versus 2 though. Reaps continues to drive this home, and now Cameraman all alone in the 1v4.
And that probably compounds a fall from grace for Los. Unfortunately, from the heights of Atlanta, they've not been able to emulate that here at R6 Invitational. Turbot to plant, the flashes towards bot red. Cameraman, as great as he is, as historic as he is as a player, this may be the toughest moment he's had to deal with in a 1 versus 3 retake scenario. And even on the Solus, that information isn't really going to aid him too much. Time, the biggest factor. The 1v3, the second biggest factor. And for Los, yes, Atlanta was amazing. Second place is great, but unfortunately the R6 Invitational, they have crashed, bottomed out here in the lower bracket already. We say goodbye to Los, but we say hello to one of APAC's representations of Bleed, who move forward to take on SSG. They look formidable. They look strong as ever. And with Joel and the Mannequin by their side, who can really take down Bleed? For Los, it is unfortunately devastation.
And you can see the emotion from Lost. This is a really difficult loss to swallow for them, not even being able to capture their own map pick. But on the side of Bleed, obviously Group C, such a challenging group, yet they continued to fight their way through it. Now here in the lower bracket, I'm very intrigued to see how far this run will go.
Los has had a phenomenal year leading up to this point, so of course the heartbreak settles in that they won't be able to play inside of their home crowd of Brazil in front of the stadium. But fortunately for Bleed, showing a lot of promise from the APAC region, slowly getting better and better throughout this tournament, they'll have another monster to face within SSG.
It's devastating for Los as we see the scenes here and how much it clearly means to them. But it really does sort of highlight, one, that Los were giving it their all. They gave everything they had, but how much has this Bleed roster continued to improve? They didn't even make Copenhagen. They made the big splash at Atlanta, and an even bigger one now developing here at R6 Invitational as they send Los packing, the team that finished second at the Atlanta Major, that looked so strong coming into this event. Unfortunately for Los, we say goodbye. Fortunately though for APAC and for Bleed, they continue on as we go to the desk.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And yes, Bleed is victorious. Lost, knocked out of the tournament here in playoffs. And I'm Milos, but with me are 2 former teammates. They've been reunited here on the desk in some way. Alfama and, of course, Mentalist here joining us.
What's up?
Congratulations, Mentalist. How are you feeling?
Feeling pretty good, actually. Didn't expect the games to be a little bit one-sided like that. But yeah, I guess anything can happen in a lower bracket game. So yeah, played too many close games this event, so kind of expected more. But now I feel kind of empty.
Yeah, that's one thing that I was figuring out actually, is that, you know, you seem to not be that confident when coming to the game. Actually, like you expected this to be closer than it actually was. And that's the question I had is, you know, we're all saying here, we said it multiple times on the desk, that it feels like you guys are having a lot of fun because everything here is bonus. Like you weren't expected to go that far. That's the statement that most people make, but is it really the statement that you guys have in mind? Did you expect to go that far?
I think realistically we know that we are capable, but obviously it's hard to prove yourself to yourself, right? Because in Asia Pacific, even in practice, in official games, it's very often you feel like there's something lacking and you don't feel that prepared. So even though maybe on some maps we are strong, we don't feel like we are. So over here is like a proving ground for us. We're tested against the best opponents in the world, and we're gonna see like if we're actually good or not. If we're not, we're gonna prepare and improve.
This makes a lot of sense, actually. I had one more point, and I think it's more personal, is, you know, when we used to team together, that was one thing that was quite obvious to me. You always had leadership and charisma to become a leader, and I think right there, like, you still had the game vision. Like, it was obvious at some point you would become a leader, and you've made that transition coming into Bleed. Like, how does it feel for you to be in that position now?
I feel like I wasn't really thrust into the position. I was more like kind of like gradually guided into it.
Yeah.
After I left IG as well, I led a team of like with Crit J and like the former Direwolves players as well. That's when I first started like feel like I was capable of leading a team. And obviously I learned a lot along the way, and now I'm like the captain of the team, and I feel like I could confidently say that, you know, I feel like a parent to them sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like this in game, actually. Like, I could hear you calls, like, literally you're the one that is calling the reset whenever they're getting overhyped or when they're about to throw around.
Yeah.
You're the one that is keeping the sanity there, and that's already a thing you were doing on Fnatic. So yeah, overall, not surprised.
What's Julio doing now on the squad? Because of course, legend in his own right. What does he bring to the team? Dude,
Julio is doing so much. Like, he does the analysis, he does like the personal guidance as well in terms of individual play. He does so much. I cannot stress enough how important he is in this event. Like, I think he single-handedly carried like the strategic aspect of the team, and I think it's incredible.
How much do you think he's helping you kind of figure out Brazilian teams, especially?
Oh, it's good. Like, the info he has is perfect in terms of their play style, like how they think about the game. In order to counter the opponent, you kind of have to first understand how they think about the game.
Absolutely.
And by knowing that, like, you can then figure out like how you want to deploy your strategies. So I think he does that for me, and I think it's perfect.
Well, with that done, I guess it is time to say again, congratulations, Mentalist and Bleed and all of APAC on this victory. Anything you'd like to say to the fans out there, you can go ahead to
well, thanks for supporting Bleed Esports, and I hope you guys can continue supporting us for a bit longer. We still have a game against SSG, I believe, later on today, so hopefully we can brave through that as well, and yeah, we'll see what goes from there.
Go Joel.
Yeah, go Joel. Wait, where's Joel?
Where's Joel? Joel.
Jeremy, where's Joel?
Joel, bring Joel.
Oh, he's here.
There you go.
Didn't
there you go, we got Joel.
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
You really are like their father.
Yeah. Actually, Aspie is the father of the fish, and I'm the father of the mannequin. So
that makes
it's our idea, so yeah.
So that makes you like his uncle, or?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I guess.
That's such a big family, and we are a big family on here. Mentalist, congratulations again from one member of the family to the other here in Rainbow Six, and good luck in your rest games. There you go. Great plays from Bleed. They 2-0 loss, and they move it forward. Now, before we actually start talking about, you know, break things down for this map and this entire series, I would like to remind everybody of one very specific thing that I will repeat in a moment. Also, for those that have not done so and don't know about it, there are 6 Invitational predictions game that is live for everybody to participate in. Do you want to support your favorite teams and also win a lot of in-game prizes? It's actually quite easy. Go to ubisoft.com/Rainbow6 and just put in what teams do you think will make it through and win. We had this in the group stage. If you did actually participate in that, then make sure that you tweet it at us and let us know what you went for. Let us know also what you're focusing on for this second week. There you go. Now back in. Anne, hello, welcome.
Hello.
More Radiance on our desk as always. What happened there? They look so good, Bleed.
Yeah, well, first about the predictions, I hope that people have been voting for these APAC teams because they're really giving it a show. I'm not trying to give any spoilers for what's going on the B stream as well, but I've heard that FearX are really taking it on to W7M at the moment. But going back to this game, indeed, a very strong performance from Bleed. It was really nice to see how, despite sometimes losing the opening engagement, they were still able to win out so many of these situations. This play as well from Reeps, I mean, we'll get to it later on, and then in the second round, or later on, sorry, in round 4, that was an amazing play coming out from him. And once again, what we saw here from Bleed was consistently taking those 2v1 gunfights and engagements, always making sure you push with that body system and have someone else to cover your 6.
Yeah, that's something that's actually quite recurrent with them, is exactly when you get in that middle of the round, they will, if they're in a mad disadvantage situation, they will find and seek an opportunity together, and they will flood 2v1, 3v1, whatever they need, they will flood with all their resources to try and get back that man advantage. And it worked again and again and again against Lost.
And that's helping a lot because they weren't always winning out these entry engagements. The conversion, once again, was a big segment during our first pros desk, and now once again here, Lowe's had a 25% conversation of getting the opening pick and then converting that into a round win. Bleed, once again, 80% on that, so really, you know, converting those rounds that they already get the opening into a round win as well. And sometimes you're like, okay, well, if you have a cafe round, or for example, library, and you go for a retake after post-ban, ideally you want to have that top 4 control, but there are rounds where Bleed didn't even need that top 4 control. They were contesting gunfights from below in situations where they shouldn't be winning them, and then they still managed to win out these gunfights.
Yeah, and I want to point out that Lost did try to adapt. They did try to bring something new. They did try to stay more grouped, actually, to try and refrag more, and still it didn't work. They were slow and methodical at the early of the map in attack. They were staying grouped and preparing a late round execution. They were still playing against Fenrir and Solis that made hard and difficult this execution, and on top of that, even though they had the full map control, I don't think they really exploited it. Thinking of that round, for example, where Rips is getting that clutch, they are all flooding one by one at the doorway instead of using the vertical pressure in the laundry hatch to have multiple pressure points.
So it seems like Lost are definitely trying to kind of hit the site all at the same time, but you don't want to conga line into it, right? You want to use that spread. It's like the next step from what you mentioned earlier this morning was, hey, you spread out, cool, you can do the split theory. I won't say it 3 times, I don't want to play that game. But then immediately move into site, and it just looks a bit conjoined and convoluted.
You did all the hard work. You got all the control that you needed, but you did not capitalize on it. It makes no sense. You have vertical control, you have laundry control, you have pillars control, use that.
So now we leave you with our Intel play of the game. Let's bring it. One day I'm going to be able to like play of the game, really play it that way. There it is. What a beautiful, beautiful play from Logan.
Yeah, and it's the exact same round. This is the actual round where Rips is taking 1v1, v1, v1, and he wins every single one of them. And that's because Lost kept pushing into that doorway instead of using the verticality and the 90 corridor.
And he was so scared. He was so scared about it as well. He was watching that hatch, the laundry hedge drop to make sure no one was pushing him from behind. Someone on the side of Bleed was assisting him from that library door push, but essentially a very, very good play from Rips. And we saw multiple of these like huge personal performances in this specific game, and it once again comes down to who's showing up on game day, and Bleed were winning their gunfights.
All right. I mean, at this point, we've rizzed up Bleed from here till next week, but they still have more elimination games. This is it. This is like the tough part where you're playing to survive.
I think it's a completely different game that's waiting for them. I think Space Station are way more structured. I think they're way better at conserving man advantage. They're really good at closing these gaps that usually teams have. They're not going to be able to exploit that as much as they did against Lost.
So let's take a look at that bracket, actually, put it all into perspective. There it is. Bleed will move forward and play Space Station as W7M set forth for NIP. We just got that confirmed as they beat FearX, and now is sad to hear, but you know, it happened. What do you think of these results?
Well, it's of course, we're seeing a 2-0 there for W7M, but FearX were taking rounds away from them. And I think that first one and the second map, both first halves, ended in a 3-3 split. So we're seeing improvement, especially coming out from FearX. They were the lowest slotted or seeded team coming into this tournament, so maybe teams weren't expecting all that much. They made it out of groups, put up a decent show against W7M, so especially going into next year, that should really put up a good prospect for them.
All right, big expectations before we go to break?
Yeah, I mean, I think in overall, one thing that I seem to notice between Brazilian teams is there seem to have a lot of pressure here in Sao Paulo. Teams that were dominating throughout the year are showing lots of cracks. You know, W7M, same thing for Lost that just happened here. I'm just hoping for them to finally take more pleasure in game and, you know, just enjoy the event, enjoy the moment. It's SI in Brazil. Play for fun.
Play for fun. There you go. With that left, thank you very much, Alfama and Anne. It's time for us to take a quick break. As you saw walking in behind me, Team Liquid and Falcons are setting up. So we'll see you in a bit for game 2.